You'll need to wear this, dear brother. Vanessa flung a crisp butler's uniform onto my bed without sparing me a glance. The resort's understaffed, and since you're in hospitality, you can finally be useful. I lifted the neatly pressed black ensemble, masking my reaction behind a carefully neutral expression. If only she knew the truth, I wasn't just in hospitality, I owned Crystal Cove Resort, along with a dozen other luxury properties scattered across the globe. You want me to serve drinks at your wedding? I asked, keeping my voice calm despite the sting in her words. Vanessa smoothed the fabric of her designer dress, admiring herself in my mirror. It's not like you can afford to be a proper guest, Michael. Besides, Daddy says it's good for you to learn your place. Some people serve, others get served. She had no idea that the resort she was marrying in, the one she had so desperately begged to book last minute, was mine. That I had personally approved the event under an alias she wouldn't recognize. That while she was playing bride in borrowed splendor, I was the architect of every luxury detail around her. 10 years ago, I walked away from our father's investment firm, an act of rebellion he'd never forgiven. A disgrace, he had called me. No son of mine will be a bellhop. They never realized I didn't want to carry luggage, I wanted to build an empire. While they mocked service, I mastered it. I learned the industry from the inside out, identifying its cracks and quietly reshaping it. Now, my name whispered through boardrooms and luxury circles, Michael Chen, visionary founder of Crystal Cove Resorts International. To them, just Michael, the family embarrassment. The wedding starts at 6, Vanessa continued, eyes glued to her phone. Be there by 4 to help set up. And Michael, she finally looked at me, lips curled into a familiar smirk. Try not to embarrass me. These are very important people. I almost laughed. Those VIPs she was referring to. My clients, CEOs, moguls, politicians, people who knew me intimately in boardrooms and penthouses, but not as the Crawford family's invisible son. I'll do my best, I replied, deadpan. Once she left, I turned to my laptop. The wedding contract still glowed on the screen. Vanessa had practically wept on the phone, desperate after her dream venue cancelled. I'd stepped in, quietly, strategically. Your family name carries weight, my events director had told her, just as I'd instructed. Mr. Chen approved the exception personally. She'd basked in the compliment, assuming it was our family's old money opening doors. The irony was exquisite. My phone buzzed, a message from David, my assistant. Everything set, staff is briefed, all sworn to secrecy. You sure you want to go through with this? I thought of every Christmas dinner where I'd been seated with the children, every fundraiser where my father introduced me as our little hotel helper, every eye roll from Vanessa whenever someone mentioned my cute little business. Absolutely, and make sure the uniforms are ready. The next morning, I entered through the staff entrance, butler's uniform over one arm. My team didn't miss a beat, welcoming me like any new employee, guiding me to the locker room. Mr. Chen, my head of security whispered as I passed, cameras are all in place, we'll capture every moment. I nodded, not for revenge, but for the record. Sometimes, humility is the best mirror. The resort hummed with wedding preparations, fresh florals worth 6 figures spilled across the ballroom, staff glided like clockwork, my staff. Around noon, my father arrived, barking at the sommelier about the champagne, the same vintage he proudly served at his own events. Don't you have anything better? He snapped. This is a Crawford wedding, not some hotel brunch. Do you even know who we are? The sommelier, a man who dined with me weekly, merely nodded. I'll check with management, sir. Then came my mother, flitting between floral arrangements and escort cards. She passed me twice, didn't even pause. At 4 o'clock sharp, the guests began pouring in. I knew nearly every face, not from family dinners, but from business. The CEO who celebrated his anniversary at my Maldives retreat. The media tycoon whose board met annually at my Swiss lodge. The tech billionaire who once joked he'd buy Crystal Cove Resorts, unaware the man serving him hors d'oeuvres already owned the crown. He was speaking to the owner. Michael, Vanessa's voice sliced through my thoughts like a whip. Stop standing around and make yourself useful. The guests need drinks. I nodded, silent, and lifted a silver tray of champagne flutes. I moved through the crowd with the quiet grace of someone who had trained others to do this job to perfection. Each guest accepted a glass without truly seeing me, just like my family had done my entire life. Cousin Peter, now a partner at his father's firm, snapped his fingers at me like I was a dog. Hey, Table 3 needs more ice. I almost laughed. He had recently tried to pitch himself as legal counsel for Crystal Cove Resorts. My team had sent him a polite but firm rejection. I kept playing my part, serving, clearing, moving unseen through glitter and ego. All the while, I watched, listened, collected every smug comment, every belittling glance. It was nearly time. My phone buzzed. A text from David. The signs are ready, on your signal. I replied with a single word, wait. Because the key to unforgettable service, and unforgettable revelations, is timing. The ceremony had ended. The reception was in full swing. Vanessa, glowing in her couture gown, glided from table to table, basking in praise. She looked like a queen, fitting, considering she thought she ruled the place. I still can't believe you landed this venue, a friend gushed. It's impossible to book Crystal Cove on short notice. Vanessa gave a modest shrug, the practiced kind. Well, when the Chen family hears your name, doors open. I poured more champagne for her table, hiding my smirk. She wasn't wrong, just misinformed. Michael, my father again, voice clipped and commanding. Less standing, more pouring. The head table needs wine, and try not to spill it this time. I hadn't spilled a drop all evening. I retrieved a fresh bottle, $1000 a label, hand-picked by me, and made my way to the family table. You know, my father was saying, loud enough for half the room to hear. Michael's lucky he found work in hospitality, keeps him grounded. Not everyone's built for success. Laughter bubbled up from his cronies, swirling their crystal glasses, imported from Venice, by me. My mother leaned in with a sigh. At least he's working, she said. A step above Timothy, who's still in the basement. I checked the time, almost. Hey, butler, Peter again, with the grace of a frat boy in a tux. Tell the manager the music sucks. This playlist feels like a funeral. The playlist, a bespoke mix performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, who I sponsor, was one of the most curated features of the night. Of course, sir, I said with a nod. I'll speak to the owner immediately. Vanessa giggled. Good luck finding him. Mr. Chen is some old recluse who probably doesn't even know this wedding is happening. Perfect. I pulled out my phone and texted a single word to David. Now. The chandeliers dimmed, the ballroom screens flickered to life. The resort's logo appeared, followed by a message in bold white letters. Welcome to Crystal Cove Resort, a message from the owner. A hush swept the room. My father squinted at the screen. What the hell is this? The photos began to roll, me, signing the purchase papers for Crystal Cove. Me, cutting the ribbon in Dubai. Me, accepting the Luxury Hotel of the Year award. Each image clear, undeniable. In each one, I was unmistakably me, Michael Chen, owner and CEO. Gasps rippled like waves. I removed the butler's jacket, revealing the sharp lines of a Tom Ford suit beneath. Actually, I said, projecting just enough to carry across the room. Mr. Chen is very aware of everything that happens in his hotels. Vanessa's glass slipped from her hand and shattered across the marble floor. Peter coughed violently into his napkin. My mother sat frozen. And my father, stone-faced, blood-drained, looked like he'd seen a ghost. That's not possible, Vanessa whispered. I met her eyes. Would you like to see the deed? I smiled politely. Or perhaps you'd prefer to review the resort's financials. I assure you, everything is in perfect order. You own Crystal Cove Resorts. My father's voice cracked like glass under pressure. All 13 properties, I said calmly, but this one is special. It's where I first understood what true hospitality means, something this family never quite managed to grasp. The screens behind me flickered, now displaying glimpses of the empire I'd quietly built. Snow-dusted peaks cradling our Swiss alpine retreat. Turquoise waves lapping at the shores of our Maldives sanctuary. The sleek skyline glinting behind our tower in Singapore. While you were all too busy sneering at my so-called career, I continued, I was building an empire, one that now eclipses Crawford Investment Group in both value and reputation. That landed like a punch. Crawford Investment had been our family's legacy, our supposed crown jewel, and I had outshone it all under the guise of a humble hotelier. It was almost too much for my father to take in. Why didn't you ever tell us? My mother asked, her voice barely audible. Would you have believed me? I asked gently. 10 years ago, you told me I was throwing my life away. That no son of yours would ever stoop to work in service. Well, you were partly right. I didn't just work in it, I redefined it. David stepped to my side, tablet in hand. Mr. Chen, the governor's online one. Should I let him know you're tied up with family business? A quiet murmur spread through the room. The same governor who had brushed me off earlier, now requesting me by name. Michael. Vanessa took a hesitant step forward, her wedding dress rustling softly. I never meant, we didn't know. No, I said simply, you didn't, you were too busy looking down to ever look up. But that's all right, while you were chasing appearances, I was creating something real. I turned to the crowd, many of whom were my actual clients. Please, enjoy the rest of the evening. The reception's been extended by 2 hours, with my compliments, though I'm afraid I'll no longer be pouring drinks myself. A ripple of laughter, slightly embarrassed, rolled through the guests. My father stood, straightening his tie like he was preparing for a boardroom negotiation. Son, perhaps we should speak, privately. Of course, I said, my office is just upstairs. You may recall, you complained it was too extravagant when you checked in yesterday. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. He had spent 20 minutes criticizing my office, unaware he was sitting in the nerve center of a billion-dollar operation. As the music resumed, the atmosphere had completely shifted. I caught snatches of conversation. He owns all of Crystal Cove, the most exclusive resort chain in the world, and they had him serving cocktails. Later that night, long after the crowd had thinned and Vanessa had disappeared into her upgraded honeymoon suite, yes, I'd seen to that personally, I stood in my office, gazing out at the moonlit sea. David entered with the final event report. Your family seems quiet. Perspective will do that, I said, thinking of Peter's clumsy apology and my mother's tearful, fumbling attempt to bridge the distance. Shall I prep the announcement for the space tourism venture? He asked. I smiled at the contract on my desk. Our expansion into luxury zero-gravity accommodations was almost complete. Let's save that surprise for the next family gathering, I said. Every great hotelier knows the value of return guests. My phone buzzed. Vanessa. Can we talk tomorrow? I replied. Of course, you're booked for breakfast at the oceanfront terrace. I own that too. Sometimes the greatest service we offer isn't room upgrades or champagne on arrival, it's the chance for others to finally see what they've overlooked. As I glanced at the butler's uniform draped neatly over a chair, I smiled. Wearing it one last time had been worth it. Because dignity isn't about the clothes you wear, it's about the person you become. The sun dipped low, casting its last golden light across the ocean. My ocean. My resort. My legacy. Tomorrow would come with new challenges, new possibilities. And maybe, just maybe, a few reconciliations. But for tonight, I was at peace. Because the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with grace, elegance, and an ocean view.